Motorcycle brands roll out shiny new models every year, hoping to grab attention, turn heads, and boost sales, but not every bike is a hit. Some are just recycled designs with new paint. Others completely miss the mark on what today's riders actually want. And the last bike on this list is so bad that riders won't even take it for a test ride. Here are 12 motorcycles released in 2025 that are destined to fail. Number 12. Honda Grom. You can't talk about small bikes without mentioning the Honda Grom. It practically created the mini bike trend over the last decade. It's fun, quirky, affordable, and dead simple to ride. For years, it was the go-to for beginners, city riders, or anyone who just wanted to laugh on two wheels. But in 2025, the magic's fading fast. Honda gave the Grom a light refresh this year, some new colors like pearl white and candy blue, and that same lovable 123.9cc engine pushing just under 10 horsepower. It still sips gas like it's rationed, about 120 miles per gallon, and at $3,600 it's not going to break anyone's budget. But that's kind of the problem, it hasn't evolved. When the Grom first hit, it was novel. Now the novelty's worn off and the market's moved on. Riders are starting to want more from their small displacement bikes. More speed, more features, better suspension, better tech. Even Royal Enfield's Hunter 350 and Triumph's Speed 400 offer entry-level fun that feels grown up. The Grom, in comparison, feels like a toy, and not in the charming way it used to. These days, riders want a city bike that's more than just cute. They want something that keeps up, both in traffic and with the times. Right now, the Grom isn't doing either. Number 11. Bule Super Cruiser. The 2025 Bule Super Cruiser looks insane in the best way. It's a 1,190cc V-twin beast pushing out 175 horsepower. Built on an Eric Bule racing platform and styled in collaboration with Roland Sands. It's loud, muscular, and undeniably American. This bike wants to make a statement, but here's the thing, it's shouting into a very small room. First, the price. At over 20 grand, it's asking Ducati level money, but without Ducati level brand pull. Riders spending that kind of cash want performance and prestige. Bule, for all its history and cult following, doesn't have the dealership network, the service support, or the mainstream trust that Harley, Indian, or even Triumph commands. Buying one is a leap of faith, and most people just aren't that daring with their wallets. Then there's the styling. It's polarizing. Some people love the aggressive, almost drag-inspired stance. Others think it looks like a mashup of a sport bike and a muscle cruiser that never quite found its identity. And while 175 horsepower is eye-watering on paper, most cruiser riders aren't chasing track numbers, they're chasing feel, comfort, and reliability. You know, things that make you want to ride for hours. The Super Cruiser? It's more like a fire-breathing dragon with forward controls. Add it all up and you get a bike that's a thrill to look at, but a risk to buy. It's niche on top of niche. A high-performance American-built power cruiser from a reborn brand that still hasn't proven it can go the distance, and that's the reason it's bound to flop. Number 10. Yamaha YZFR7. You know how some movies get a sequel and it's basically the same movie with new clothes? That's kind of the story with the 2025 Yamaha YZFR7. Don't get me wrong, the RZ is still a capable machine. It's lightweight, handles great, and for newer sport bike riders it can feel like a proper supersport without being overwhelming. But here's the problem. Yamaha didn't really do anything new for 2025. It's the same bike in a new intensity white paint scheme. That's literally it. In 2025, people expect more. Riders aren't just looking for speed and looks anymore. They want connectivity, updated rider aids, smarter tech packages, and genuine evolution. The R7's 689cc parallel twin engine is solid, yes, but it's been around for a while, and competitors like Aprilia's RS660 or even the CF Moto 450 SR are bringing way more excitement to the table, with better electronics, lighter builds, and often better pricing. Another issue is the value proposition. When the R7 came out, it was a welcome bridge between entry-level sport bikes and the leader-class monsters. But now, the middleweight market has become a battlefield. Riders are hungry for track-worthy machines with trickle-down tech from flagship models, and the R7 just isn't keeping up with the pace. It feels like Yamaha's coasting, and the riders know it. And let's be honest, when the only update is a new color, it's hard to get anyone hyped. Number 9. Kawasaki W230 ABS. The Kawasaki W230 is one of the most confusingly timed releases this year. At first glance, it looks like it's got some nostalgic appeal. Round headlights, spoked wheels, and that vintage UJM silhouette that screams simpler times. It's clearly trying to channel the charm of classic 60s bikes. The problem is, most buyers in 2025 aren't looking for that. The W230 rocks a 233cc air-cooled single-cylinder engine, and while it's perfectly fine for puttering around town, there's nothing particularly exciting about it. It's underpowered for highway riding, and at around 20 horsepower, even entry-level bikes from Royal Enfield or CF Moto are making it look outdated. Add to that a 5-speed gearbox, basic suspension, and very little in the way of modern rider aids, and it's easy to see how this bike starts to feel like an afterthought. Here's the other problem. Retro bikes aren't just about looks anymore. They need to feel authentic, but ride modern. Think Triumph's Speed Twin 900 or Yamaha's own XSR700. The W230 leans too far into the old part of the retro equation. It's not refined enough to win over experienced riders, and it's not exciting enough for new ones. Number 8. Suzuki DRZ4S and DRZ4SM. A few months ago, there was some genuine buzz when rumors started flying that Suzuki was revamping the DRZ series. Dual Sport and Supermoto fans have been begging Suzuki for a proper update for years, and then we got the DRZ4S and DRZ4SM. Yes, they're technically new models for 2025, but they're not the full-blown revolution people wanted, more like a whisper of change. The new 451cc DOHC single-cylinder engine makes around 37.5 horsepower, which is fine. But when riders were expecting a serious upgrade to compete with modern engines like the KTM 500 EXCF or the Husqvarna 701 SM, this just doesn't cut it. The power-to-weight ratio isn't impressive, the suspension isn't top tier, and there's still no modern ride modes, TFT dash, or even traction control. In 2025, that's a hard sell, especially for a bike that's supposed to be flickable and fun. But the biggest misstep? Suzuki brought these back without listening to what the Supermoto and Dual Sport crowd actually wanted. Riders were asking for bold, aggressive styling, more power, and electronics to match 2025 expectations. Instead, they got something that feels halfway between a nostalgia trip and a budget compromise. And let's not forget, competition is fierce in this space. Honda's CRF450RL continues to dominate. Even lesser-known brands are coming in hot with better spec sheets. The DRZ4S and 4SM just don't have the firepower or personality to survive in that arena. Number 7. Honda Shadow Phantom. There's something charming about the Honda Shadow Phantom. It's low, blacked out, no nonsense, like the motorcycle equivalent of a leather jacket and boots. But the thing is, we've been looking at this same bike since forever. And for 2025, Honda basically just reissued the same package again, hoping the classic look still sells. Spoiler alert, it's not working. The cruiser market isn't what it used to be. Today's riders aren't just settling for simplicity. They want comfort, they want performance, and more than anything, they want something that feels fresh. The Shadow Phantom still runs on a 745cc liquid-cooled V-twin, pumping out around 45 horsepower. That might have been acceptable in 2008, but in 2025, you've got cruisers from Indian and even Royal Enfield bringing more personality, better tech, and actual effort into their designs. The Phantom, by comparison, just feels like it's being left behind. And while Honda gave it a very minor refresh in 2024, with an updated front fork and LCD gauge, the 2025 model is absolutely unchanged. No traction control, no smartphone connectivity, no riding modes, no ABS as standard in some trims. This wouldn't be so bad if it were ultra affordable, but starting at around $8,400, the Shadow isn't even the budget hero anymore. You're basically paying for legacy styling and a nameplate, nothing else. You can tell Honda was hoping nostalgia would carry it, but unfortunately, that will not continue to work forever. Number 6. HarleyDavidson Nightstra Special. This bike has all the ingredients to be great. It's got a sleek look, a lighter chassis, and that 975cc Revolution Max engine that's genuinely fun to twist. But here's the thing, Harley didn't really fix any of the issues people had with the previous models, and worse, it feels like they doubled down on the things no one asked for. Let's start with the riding experience. Yeah, it's nimble for a Harley. Yeah, the Revolution Max is peppy, but the ergonomics are still weird. You've got this low-slung cruiser look, but mid-controls that make taller riders feel like they're riding a folding chair. The 2025 version still doesn't give you the full comfort you'd expect from a special tag. Suspension? Not great. Wind protection? Basically none. Long-distance comfort? Forget about it. Now let's talk price, because that's where things go south fast. Starting at $13,500, the Nightstra Special puts itself directly in competition with the Indian Scout Rogue, Yamaha's Bolt R-Spec, and even some mid-tier adventure bikes. And those competitors, they either offer better tech, more power, or a way better bang for your buck ratio. The Harley, on the other hand, feels like it's selling you a badge first and a motorcycle second. Number 5. Suzuki GSX 8S. When Suzuki dropped the GSX 8S last year, a lot of people were cautiously optimistic. It had a brand new 776cc parallel twin engine, decent specs, and a price that undercut many of its rivals. For newer riders or commuters who wanted a naked bike without spending a fortune, it looked like a great deal. But as the months rolled by and feedback started rolling in, the cracks started to show. And now the 2025 model is looking like a bike that might quietly fade away. The issue isn't that the 8S is bad, it's that it's forgettable. You sit on it, twist the throttle, ride it around the block, and you don't feel anything. It's not thrilling. It's not refined. The ride-by-wire throttle feels slightly numb. The suspension's soft. The brakes are fine, but nothing to write home about. And that new engine? It's torquey down low, but lacks any real top-end excitement. Suzuki may have been aiming for a Goldilocks middleweight, but they landed in a gray zone where the bike doesn't truly appeal to any specific rider. And here's where the real problem lies. Everyone else is doing more. Yamaha's MT-07 is still the king of fun per dollar, and now even Chinese brands are stepping in with wild-looking designs, loaded tech, and better performance, often for less money. The GSX 8S doesn't have a standout identity. It's not the cheapest, it's not the best looking, it's not the most fun. And right now, buyers are craving bikes that spark something, not just blend in. Suzuki also hasn't added much for 2025. No updated display, no suspension tweaks, no revised geometry, just some new colorways. And when you're already the underdog in a brutally competitive class, that's not enough to keep attention. With so many new naked bikes entering the US market this year, the GSX 8S risks becoming that motorcycle people see on the showroom floor, shrug at, and walk right past. Number 4. Yamaha Vstar 250. You ever walk into a dealership, look at a bike, and wonder why it's still being made? That's the Yamaha Vstar 250 in 2025. It's like finding a brand new flip phone in a smartphone store. Sure, it technically works. Sure, it might appeal to a very specific group of people, but let's be honest, this bike feels like it's been stuck in 2006, and Yamaha just refuses to pull the plug. It's still rocking that ancient 249cc air-cooled V-twin, making a painfully modest 21 horsepower. The transmission? A basic 5-speed, no traction control, no ABS in some regions, no TFT screen, no nothing. In a world where even beginner bikes are coming with smartphone integration, LED lighting, and slick digital dashboards, the Vstar just stares blankly with its round analog dials like it's never heard of Bluetooth. The worst part? It's not cheap enough to justify the bare-bones setup. You're looking at a price of around $4,700, which is not far off from something like the Honda Rebel 300, which is more modern, more powerful, and doesn't feel like a hand-me-down from your uncle's garage. Even bikes like the CF Moto 300 CLX are stealing the spotlight with way more tech, performance, and street cred for the same or less money. Younger riders, the exact people entry-level bikes are supposed to attract, aren't going for this kind of experience anymore. They want cool, they want connected, they want a motorcycle that doesn't scream training wheels. And the Vstar? It's stuck trying to sell nostalgia to people who never even knew it existed in the first place. Number 3. Kawasaki Vulcan S. The Vulcan S has always been a bit of a wild card. It uses Kawasaki's popular 649cc parallel twin engine, the same one found in the Ninja 650 and Z650, but it's wedged into a cruiser frame. At first glance, it seems like a win-win. Sporty engine, comfortable layout, and lots of adjustability. But here's the truth. The Vulcan S just doesn't know what it wants to be anymore, and right now, that confusion is finally catching up to it. It's not a traditional cruiser, no V-twin rumble, no low-end torque beast. It's not a sporty naked, too heavy, too long, and not aggressive enough. And it's certainly not a touring bike, even though some folks try to stretch it that way. Instead, it just kind of exists in this awkward middle ground where it's good at nothing and okay at everything. In 2015, that versatility might have helped. In 2025, it just makes the Vulcan S look bland. What really hurts it is the lack of evolution. The engine is unchanged, the tech is unchanged. The design still feels like it's trying to be cool in a very 2010 kind of way. Meanwhile, its competitors have stepped up. Indian's new lightweight cruisers feel more premium. Honda's Rebel 500 now comes with better display options and a smoother ride. Even Royal Enfield is nipping at Kawasaki's heels with bikes that look better, sound better, and feel more characterful. And while the Vulcan S does offer adjustable pegs and bars, most riders just don't find the overall ergonomics that appealing anymore. Taller riders feel cramped. Shorter riders struggle with the wide seat. And worst of all, it just doesn't give you that cruiser feel people crave. No rumble, no character, just quiet efficiency, like riding a lawnmower with a sport bike engine. It's not a bad bike, but that's the problem. It's not anything. And when you're asking around $7,900 for something that feels this uninspired, people notice and walk right past it. Number 2. BMW CEO2. Let's talk electric, because 2025 is shaping up to be the year that EV motorcycles start carving out real space, but not like this. Enter the BMW CEO2, the so-called e-parkour that looks like a concept sketch turned into a mall kiosk product. BMW wanted to reinvent urban mobility. What they ended up with is a $7,609 toy that tries so hard to be hip, it basically screams, "Please validate me." BMW's idea was to create a lightweight, all-electric urban commuter with a 15 horsepower output, top speed of around 60 miles per hour, and a claimed range of 55 miles. Sounds fine in theory, but in practice it just doesn't make sense for most people. Paying nearly $8,000 for a glorified moped that can't hit freeway speeds, can't take long trips, and doesn't offer any storage. It has tiny 14-inch wheels, no wind protection, and a seat that starts feeling stiff at around 15 minutes into the ride. BMW slapped on a funky LED display and app-based integration with some playful UI gimmicks, but beyond that, it's all style over substance. The CEO2 looks like a prop from a cyberpunk film, and that's not necessarily a compliment. It's too weird for traditional riders, too expensive for college kids, and too limited in capability for commuters who want a real vehicle. To make matters worse, the market is flooded with better options. Sondors, NIU, Rivid, all putting out sleeker, faster, cheaper urban electrics. And if you're already spending that much, you could just spring for a full-sized EV motorcycle from Zero, or even a low-tier Livewire. The CEO2 has no clear audience, unless there's a hidden demographic of TikTok influencers who need a $7,500 scooter to match their aesthetic. At the end of the day, the CEO2 is proof that branding can't carry a bad product forever. Number 1. Now, when Harley-Davidson announced they were expanding their smaller displacement lineup with the all-new Nightstra 440, it sounded like a smart move. On paper, it looked like Harley was finally responding to the success of bikes like the Royal Enfield Meteor 350, the Honda Rebel 500, and even the new Triumph Speed 400. You'd think they were gunning for a slice of that lightweight, affordable cruiser pie. But here's the problem. They brought a fork to a soup fight. The 2025 Nightstra 440 is an Indo-American mashup based on the same platform as the X440 co-developed with Hero MotoCorp. It features a 440cc air and oil-cooled single-cylinder engine making around 27 horsepower and 26 pound-feet of torque. Sounds okay if you're building a no-frills commuter, but this is Harley, and people expect presence. They expect low-end grunt, a rumble, and a sense of purpose. Instead, the Nightstra 440 kind of buzzes along like a dressed-up dirt bike with a leather jacket on. Harley tried to give it that classic bar and shield styling, chunky tank, short fenders, low stance, but it still feels like cosplay. The proportions are awkward, the lines don't flow, and if you look too closely, you realize it's not even belt driven, it uses a chain. That may not bother first-time buyers, but for anyone who spent years around Harleys, it's like finding out your fancy hotel has a coin-operated shower. Even the price, expected to land around $4,500 to $5,000, doesn't help its cause. Why? Because Royal Enfield owns this segment already. The Meteor 350 and Hunter 350 feel more authentic, ride better, and have years of global trust behind them. Meanwhile, Triumph has stormed in with their Speed 400 and Scrambler 400X, both more refined, more powerful, and backed by an actual legacy of performance and cool factor. And let's be real, the people who usually buy Harleys aren't looking for 440cc singles. They want that signature V-twin pump, the heritage, the character. People who might consider a 400cc commuter are already buying used Japanese bikes or heading straight to the Enfield dealership. So the Nightstra 440 ends up in this weird no man's land. Too weak for Harley diehards, too try-hard for new riders, and too late to matter. It's not exciting, it's not affordable enough, it's not bold, fresh, or memorable. In a world where riders expect either high performance, timeless style, or killer value, the Nightstra 440 delivers none of the above. And unless Harley pulls off a major marketing miracle, this bike's gonna sit in showrooms like a party guest nobody invited. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. See you in the next video.